it's 12:01. People are going to be slowly trickling in. Oh, here I see Diana too. Oh, there you go. Great. Okay, so we'll just get started because it's a limited amount of time. There's a lot of people. The first thing I'd like to do is just do basic introductions. And with introductions, I'm going to ask you to just briefly share, because there are a lot of us, like I said, but just briefly share one thing that you would like to see happen in 2021. So tell us your name, tell us the organization you're with and what you do there, and then just answer that prompt briefly. What would you like to see related to your industry would be optimal, since this is an industry roundtable. Something that you would like to see happen in 2021. Okay, so I'll start. My name is Susana Paredes-Swap. I think all of you know me. I'm the founder of Vanguard Culture. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that works to advance the creative industries. You all know us in different capacities, so I'll tell you very briefly our 3 programs. We do arts journalism, and we just found out that we won 5 more awards in 2020 for excellence in journalism from the San Diego Press Club, so yay. We do professional development for creatives, so we do workshops and industry mixers, panel discussions, all to help creatives have a business mind about their practice and learn how to make a living doing the thing they love. And the third thing that we do are our cultural events. All of them are very intentionally done cross-industry. We try to get 2 industries that typically never intersect to work together, share resources, collaborate, cross-promote. And so that's what we do. What I would like to see happen in 2021 is I'll call it a radical collaboration between San Diego's creative industry workforce. That's what I would like to see. Okay, so we'll start with the people that I can see on my screen. Sam?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sam Woodhouse, Artistic Director of San Diego Repertory Theater for many decades. We make theater in the Lyceum in downtown San Diego when they're not demolishing the mall above us. And currently we have a chain link fence surrounding our theater. The elevators don't work, including the freight elevator or the Pearson elevator. And tonight we're premiering a film of a play we produced called JQA by Aaron Posner, which we shot on a set in the Lyceum, fully costumed, fully staged with 3 cameras. And I literally just finished the final viewing 5 minutes before this meeting started. What I'd like to see next year is I would love to see something like this created, an outdoor performing space that multi-disciplines can use, that has parking, that has social distancing built into its seating in some way, that has lighting and audio capability, that's open not just for one group, but for multiple groups, because I think that may be one of the answers to what's happening to us. There are a lot of us that want to perform, and there are a lot of people who want to see what we do. So where can that happen? Could it happen outdoors? That's my wish.
Nice, thank you. Patricia.
Sorry, I was taking notes. Okay, hi, my name is Patricia. I'm a former modern dancer from Guatemala. And I have been just performing improvisation dance through my background of Guatemalan ritual tendencies. And I have been supporting Vanguard Culture in the international program coordination. Right now, I'm trying to find new ways of how we can get connected. I am in several groups in Europe, Central America, and the United States, but we are trying to figure it out. And as soon as I get something that I know is good for San Diego, I will propose it too. How can what I would like to see for the future is how can we develop new ways of interconnection Not that we don't have them, of course, there has been increasing through the years, but there is something that is missing, and that's what I am looking for.
Thank you. Gaidi?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I am the executive director of the San Diego African American Museum of Fine Art. We do lots of programs with other museums, and so it's important that the other museums be open so we can collaborate with them. We're looking at various projects next year that are COVID, meaning that they don't have to be affected by COVID, but at the same time, what I would like to see in next year is more in-person activities, more live music, and more openings at museums again.
Yeah, we all miss that. Michelle.
Oh, I'm Michelle Lowenstein, and I'm actually I'm an attorney, kind of a recovering attorney. I still do a little bit of work, but I'm a secretary of the board of Vanguard Culture, and so my role in the arts has traditionally, been just supporting the arts, even though I have a degree in theater. Turned out to be an attorney. And so now I'm supporting Vanguard Culture. And I would hope that after these, horrible 4 years that, I'm hoping something good will come out of all of this, and that we can reimagine what we're doing just worldwide and in the arts. And the one thing that has actually sort of been positive from this experience with the pandemic, not that much has been able to participate in a lot of lectures and things that I would never be able to go to, like lectures in different parts of the country. And so I hope that's like the one thing we can keep is the ability to connect. So even though the last 4 years have basically been fleeing from globalism, I think this part has actually been helpful to bring people more together in different parts of the world, because we've, one of our Vanguard events, a couple of them, we've had people from all over the world. So that's been positive, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to reimagine a new world, rise like a phoenix.
Yes, that's why we're here. Yes, it can be done. Sean.
Hi there, everyone. Good to see you. I'm John Malashok. I'm the artistic director of Malashok Dance. We're based over in Liberty Station. Tonight we have our second in a series of live stream events where we'll be premiering a new work that you can see for the first time along with everyone else. And it's been kind of exciting learning the everything that goes along with being able to do these kind of events, because we're sort of stepping up the level of it. It's not via Zoom. We're using a little more sophisticated means. And related a little bit to what Sam's saying and what Michelle is saying, I would like to see, of course, I'd like to see us get back to a viable approach to live performance, but also to continue to incorporate the streaming possibilities, so we're not limited to just our geographic region in terms of who our audience is. Seems like there's a potential there to be able to reach out further than we normally have been. There's no reason not to continue with this approach.
Yeah, thank you. Julie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Kendig. I'm the founder and principal investigator at RISE Research and Evaluation. We work mostly with arts and culture nonprofits, although we also work with school districts and County Office of Education. And then I also moonlight as the grant writer at the ASHA Project. So we're very pleased to be publicly announcing the latest award from the Innovations and Intersections grant. So yeah. And what I would like to see is more arts and culture organizations Predominantly, the organizations that are lacking leadership from BIPOC individuals undergo organizational equity assessments to understand what their role is in perpetuating inequity.
Thank you. Sean?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Murray. I'm the artistic director at Signet Theater. My first impulse on hearing what do I want to see in 2021, I want to be able to create something on our stage. I mean, I find it extremely frustrating, but we're learning a lot about the different new formats. I kind of feel like John does that. Although I'm kind of going kicking and screaming into Zoom world, I also think there's a lot of potential in there that we're beginning to figure out. We're looking forward to being able to hire people so that we can start working on making our theater more equitable, more diverse. We're doing a lot of work on that, and not being able to actually translate that into jobs is a little frustrating, but that's one of our goals, and that I'm looking forward to. Those two things go hand in hand, being able to actually do work and then hiring the right people to do the work.
Yeah, thank you. And I encourage you all to put your screens on speaker view every once in a while. Not on speaker view, I meant gallery view every once in a while, just to sort of see all the faces here, and hopefully we'll get to know each other better. Charlotte.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Kagan. I am a nonprofit executive of cultural arts organizations, and I'm also an advisor to Vanguard Culture. And I think, like what the others are saying, I think there's some consensus building here. I think that we need to look at this pandemic, as difficult as it may be, as an opportunity, and that some of the strategies and tools and resources that we're developing to get us through this time period actually continue post-pandemic, and that we realize that we've broadened our scope and broadened our resources and broadened our accessibility. And so I think that's a very positive thing. And I would hope that we would continue these strategies. Even meetings like this would not have taken place before, and they're so valuable. So I want to make sure that we continue with these strategies that we've developed just sort of ad hoc to react to the pandemic, but that they become a permanent part of our toolbox.
Thank you. Thank you. Erin?
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Chambers-Smith. I was with San Diego Magazine as an editor for about 10 years until a few months ago when I joined Mary Walshock and her team, and am now working on the new UC San Diego project that is opening next year downtown. So other than seeing a very splashy, exciting opening for the new downtown center in 2021, I'm really looking forward to seeing more young and emerging leaders and new voices make an impact in the arts and culture industry. I think there's a lot of talent out there now that wasn't out there 9 months ago, and I'd love to see the industry come together and really sort of embrace some new talent.
Nice, thank you. Brendan.
Okay, hi, my name is Brendan Nguyen. I'm a co-artistic director of Project Blank. And I'm sure you guys have never heard of us because we're fairly new, but just hearing what you are all saying, I'm excited that there seems to be a consensus that there needs to be a lot of collaboration across disciplines. That's literally written into our mission statement. So I'm excited to somehow be a part of that. And yeah.
Yeah, they are doing really great work right now, by the way. So please look them up, Project Blank. They do contemporary opera, mixed media, multimedia projects, and they're fantastic. Felicia.
Hi, everybody. I'm Felicia Shaw. Most of you probably remember me from my days in philanthropy with the Arts Commission, and then years with the San Diego Foundation. Happy to be back after 5 years in St. Louis and to see all of you. I'm now the executive director of the Women's Museum of California, which is fake in the back, and really enjoying being on this side of the aisle. In terms of next year, I'm looking forward to two things. Still with my philanthropy thinking on, I'm really hoping to see more emerging philanthropists step into the ring. I think we have pretty run the mill with our older philanthropists, those who have been giving for years and years. And I'm really excited about seeing new donors step into the ring and embrace the arts with their dollars and with their treasure and with all of the great talent that they have. And the second thing that I'm really excited about and hoping for is for the institutions that have brick and mortar, walls and doors, to figure out a way to open those walls and doors to individual artists. We all know how expensive it is to live in San Diego, and for artists particularly. And if you are so fortunate to actually have a building that we can walk through, to figure out a way that more artists can walk through those doors and do good work.
Yes, yes. Linda, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Mariano. I'm the managing director of Redwood Art Group, and we produce Art San Diego annually, except for this year. And what I'm looking forward to is being able to do that again and being able to work with some of you like we always have, to really make it an event that is not only about the exhibitors that are at the show and the artwork, but also really a collaborative community event. So fingers crossed that all of that can happen again next year for us.
Thank you. For those of you who are not in the visual art space, it's a huge event. Linda, can you give us a sense of the attendance numbers generally?
Sure. We usually, last year we moved the fair to the San Diego Convention Center, which gave us the opportunity to really grow the fair. And we generally have about 75 exhibitors, which are both galleries that are national as well as international, and they're local in San Diego, as well as emerging and established artists. And the attendance ranges from 8 to 12,000. It really depends on the various community partners that we have. UBS has been the sponsor of the fair since its founding. And of course we get all of their Southern California and actually beyond clients that attend the fair.
Nice. So around 8 to 10,000 in 1 or 2 days.
Generally, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Heath?
I'm Heath Fox. I'm the executive director of the La Jolla Historical Society. Good afternoon, everyone. And, you know, I want to echo some of the things that have already been said. I think the past few months for me have reinforced the idea that there is nothing like the in-person experience, right? You cannot, no matter how good the technology gets, there's nothing like being in the audience to see a performance or walking through a gallery to see an exhibition. And there's no substitute for that. At the same time, I think, you know, all of us have been operating in the virtual space more since this pandemic started. And I think, you know, at least I have come to the realization that that's not all going to go away to the way it was before, that we're going to continue to do some programming and some activity in that virtual space. As John pointed out, it really gives you an opportunity to expand your audience profile. And there are collaborative opportunities as well. We're working on a collaboration right now with the San Diego Public Library and the organizations Write Out Loud and San Diego Writers, Inc. And the project is the San Diego Decameron Project. And it's modeled after the concept of the book, The Decameron, which was written in Italy during the 14th century when the Black Plague was raging through Europe. And we are soliciting stories, fiction and nonfiction stories of 1,000 words from authors throughout San Diego County. And this will be a judged competition to select the best 100 stories. And in January, each of our 4 organizations will post 25 of those stories on our website so that we have an opportunity to cross-promote that. And then in February, Write Out Loud is going to perform 10 of those stories. And that will probably be, well, it will definitely be a virtual offering. And we're hoping that we can also have an in-person performance outside somewhere to present that. So it's an interesting opportunity, and we're looking forward to this collaboration. And you know, you learn a lot the first time you do one of these things with other organizations in the virtual space. But I think that's part of our future as well. And I just, you know, I want to say that I absolutely agree with what Felicia said in terms of supporting local artists. We have an exhibition coming up that will open in January called Trifecta, Art, Science, Patron, where, and Kai Esri is the curator of this show, teamed up local artists with scientists at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies to produce new artwork in response to the state of research that these scientists are working on. And all the scientists are in endowed chairs, which is where the patron comes in. So it's a celebration of local philanthropy as well. So there's lots of opportunities to do interesting and collaborative things, both in the live space and the virtual space. And I think that's where our future lies, that and supporting and helping local artists and practitioners.
Thank you, Heath. Let's see, Dan.
Yes, hi there. I am here somewhat in 3 roles. One is I'm a board member of Vanguard Culture and happy to be a part of supporting all that you all, we all, I should say, are doing in that organization. I also wear 2 hats. One is longstanding as the jazz program coordinator for the Athenaeum in La Jolla, and also in their location in Logan Heights. And then I also am the executive director of a multi-state organization called the Western Jazz Presenters Network, which is an association of primarily nonprofit organizations that present jazz in all of the Western states and Western Canada, and aspirationally in Northern Mexico. So, I think coming from that perspective, having meetings like this, I think is really, really essential right now. I think we're all sort of longing for and lacking opportunities to come together as a community and to discuss the issues that we're facing and share solutions to the issues we're facing. And you know, within the context of the Jazz Network, I've had Zoom meetings with 30 different presenters from as far east as Tulsa, Oklahoma, and as far north as Vancouver, and organizations as large as the Los Angeles Philharmonic and as small as the Taos, New Mexico Bebop Society. And we're all sharing what we're doing. And it's fascinating to see that, you know, we all have something to learn from one another at these radically different kind of, you know, sizes of organizations and different communities. So I think this is incredibly valuable, and to do this regularly is huge. And again, that actually is something we didn't do before. So we have the pandemic to thank for that. I think also what has come to me in this period is how important community, both locally and in a larger sense, is to the arts and culture field. What I do at the Athenaeum, although it sometimes involves local artists, primarily focuses on giving San Diego audiences the opportunity to hear the best jazz musicians nationally and internationally here in our town. And that kind of work depends on having the connections to presenters in Minneapolis and Phoenix and Denver and the Bay Area, because we all work together to make these projects feasible in all of our communities. So, so keeping those networking ties together is a real essential part of the creative process of doing this kind of music presentation. I think, again, on the Athenaeum side, I have been very positively surprised by how impactful live streamed performances actually are. It has been, there has been a real sense of being there, being present in the moment of the creation of the artwork. And even the little kind of creep of the cat along the side of the screen, you see names of people that you would have usually seen, you know, in the next row in the audience, and kind of know they're there and they're reacting and responding. So I think there's actually kind of a surprising power to the medium of streaming that I was quite frankly a skeptic about. So, and I do think we'll continue to keep that as part of how we present in times going forward. I think just one more thing is I feel an impulse to continue building on the relationships and ties that I have forged with artists in Tijuana and Baja California. And that has become more problematic now that we are, you know, divided not only by the border, but also by the pandemic and how that's being handled in two different places. And I guess I'm searching for ways to continue to bridge that gap while we're not able to really interact in a physical space.
Mm. Good, thank you. Matt.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone here. Thank you for herding the kittens, Susanna. And, I'm Matt Carney, Executive Director of the San Diego Ballet and the co-chair of the San Diego Regional Arts and Culture Coalition. Next up for us, we're doing a drive-in version of the Nutcracker. I've never had to secure porta potties as part of executive duties before, but dealing in this space of what we can do and can't do, kind of just keeping going forward. We also have a school that we've closed, we've opened, we've partially reopened, closed, and then now are opening in a hybrid fashion, online and virtual. So just, you know, reading the news every day and doing as much as we can, and appreciate some of the colleagues and the group of support that we have in Liberty Station. It's nice to have someone to call that sort of is going through similar things and similar to this conversation. Nice to just see other people. As far as what's happened in the next year, I guess my hope is a more deep level collaboration and sharing of resources in a way that hasn't exactly been done so much. I think a lot of collaborations often are ornamental or low level. You know, can you perform in a dance in our lobby before the show or something? I just wonder if there's ways that we could really bring together the best of different companies and present something that no one could do alone. And I think that could be artistically, but also administratively, you know, combining resources. You know, I'm kind of like a small to mid-sized nonprofit guy. You know, is there, you know, a shared accountant or something like that? Are we buying reams of paper together? Just some sort of collective impact that we could make by sharing some resources.
That's the kind of thinking that we're trying to make happen here. So thank you for saying all of that. Yes. Okay. Andrew.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Santa. Thank you for inviting me. And it's unbelievable to see how many folks here I think have collaborated with between Matt and John and Sean and Linda, Kent and Felicia. Yeah, and I hope to make more connections with each of you and collaborate with each of you in your own distinctions and art forms going forward too. So thank you, Susanna, for bringing us all together. I think it's an interesting state of affairs with where we're at and planning and, you know, having had to been pushed into new processes in this last year and looking forward to what we can accomplish in the next year. And I think Matt certainly nailed the hammer on the head with kind of where my thinking is. And I think Felicia, you're kind of helping actualize it with what we're doing in this meeting. You know, and I think we've seen this with kind of unfortunately with the national level of healthcare is that where are the guidelines, where's the, you know, helping support people with the boots on the ground. And I think a sharing of resources, of frameworks, to make sure that, I love Matt's idea about the drive-in, and I know each of you are, doing your own program through virtual. It's like, how can we learn from each other in what practices are more successful? And then how can we collaborate with each other in a kind of a deeply impactful way, whether it's administrative or through cultural and artistic outlets. And I think that's going to be even more important, whereas, I think prior to 2020, I think many of us we would have our regular, maybe more intimate programming for our deeply invested communities, but then there'd be the bigger things. So, participating in street fairs, etc. And I'm not sure that that's going to be feasible in the near-term future, even with, even with the vaccine in the coming amount of time or whatever, big concerts and, big collaborative things, I think the jury's still out what we can do. So we're going to have to get, I think, even more innovative in how we can have these more intimate or smaller experiences with, where we're really connecting the dots culturally and then also keep people engaged, whether they're coming up in person or virtually, and presenting compelling content. So they're not just, I feel like in San Diego, we're always fighting the good weather issue. So, how do we keep people engaged here, or how do we get them to come out and feel safe and protected when they come out and see us, socially distanced. So yeah, I'm just really look forward to connecting with you all and hopefully connect with the other half that I haven't met. And Susanna, thank you again. And hopefully we can do more of this meeting of the minds and sharing of resources and collaborations.
Awesome. I'm so encouraged to hear everyone continue to say sharing of resources, because that's what this exact meeting is about. And the last one brought so many resources to the table, and I can't wait to share those with you. We are creating a document, just so you know, that is going to be a shared resource for all of you. And we'll get to that after the introduction. So next is Kian. Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you. Hi,
Nice
my
to
name's
meet you.
Kian. I am the Artistic Associate of Signet Theater, and I'm also the Artistic Founder of Patchwork Theater, which is a new collective dedicated to making art online during this time of the pandemic. But it's really nice to be here. I recognize some of these faces, but I'm pretty brand new, which is, it's okay. But I am, most likely with everybody else, I'm just looking forward to see what next year brings, I think, in terms of, I think it is, I agree, over these past couple months, really, embracing the digital form and seeing what it can bring to us. But also, I think, hopefully if things, allow us to begin to do things like drive-ins and stuff like that, how can we do that and still engage our audiences and make it feel, just as special, just as magical, just as wonderful, even though we may be in our cars or, out in picnics or whatever, right? But just thinking about new forms and what it can bring to us. But I also agree, I think I always love collaboration. I'm always excited to meet new people and see what they bring that I may not bring, because that's the beauty of collaboration, is you're all teaching each other something. So really looking at collaboration, I think just, really embracing what we have and making sure that we continue to excel in this community as artists, because I think that we have a lot of potential here. And I think even though this has caused us to like kind of stop and reevaluate, I think because we've allowed ourselves to do that, I think we're only just going to elevate and elevate as we continue to talk and work together. So thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you. Yes, rising tides. Mary.
Hi there. I'm Mary Walshock. I'm the Dean of Extension at UC San Diego. But for the purposes of this conversation, I'm tasked with opening a 66,000 square foot building at the intersection of Park and Market, where the east-west bus line and the south-north trolley line connect all the neighborhoods and communities of this city. And I'm so excited to listen to all of you, to hear Felicia, because I think we may be one of those missing resources for small arts organizations. We're designing a building that is intended to reflect everything one associates with a university like UCSD, which is arts and culture, science, education and training, programs for pre-college youth, programs for retirees in learning. But the first 2 floors of our building are being designed to be public space. There will be theater space, a foyer that is, I'm looking at you, Matt, you're going to be my new best friend, a foyer that is a block long on Market where you could do dance. And we have a staircase where we're calling a pocket theater, where there's a landing and a trumpeter could play to 900 people standing up in our foyer. We're on the cusp of a deal with Digital Gym, so we'll have a fine arts cinema. There's a rooftop terrace. There's an outdoor amphitheater with a screen. And there's a 30-foot wide sidewalk on Park, which is going to become all pedestrian. So think about this as a venue, a space where all kinds of work can be presented, all kinds of collaborations can occur through festivals, special events. And I was so grateful when Susanna invited me to your meeting, because UCSD has a couple of really important goals in establishing a presence downtown. One is to become much more embedded in the community of San Diego. We've tended to be the, and Heath knows, we've been colleagues, right? The city on the hill. And you know, you can gain admission if you can find a parking place and figure out how to navigate our campus. Well, trust me, this building is going to be accessible. It's going to be open 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and Sundays if we do festivals and special events. So being really a part of the community and accessible. But the second thing is that I think the campuses around America are embracing the issues of equity, diversity, and inclusiveness in ways they never have before. And recognizing that there's as much to be learned from the community as there is for us to teach the community. We've tended to think we're the teachers and everybody else are the learners, but people on this screen have so much to teach us in the arts and our students. And so we really want to program music, dance, film, conversations, festivals that embrace the many faces, the many voices that make up this great city. So I hope we'll be a good partner. We're going to try the best we can to have low cost, no cost space available. We can help fundraise with organizations if we decide to partner together. And the university does have extraordinary reach, lots of benefactors. And I think for purposes of this conversation, I would like to believe that once this downtown center opens next fall, we will begin to bridge that terrible divide that has existed north of 8 and south of 8. And so thank you very much for including me today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. And it's a beautiful, beautiful space. I've seen it digitally a few times in some of the workshops. But for those of you that don't know, it also has a visual arts space. Next is Margit. Thank you. Welcome. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I joined late. I was over in the Google Meets zone all by myself with Heath. I don't know. So anyway, so I'm Margit Whitlock.
You made that mistake, Margit.
I know. And then, you know, it took me a while. Anyway, so I'm here. So I'm Margit Whitlock. I'm an architect with Architectural Concepts, but my role in joining you all is that I'm the president of the San Diego Architectural Foundation. And the foundation has been around for like 40 some odd years, and it's our mission to broaden the engagement of all San Diegans in the appreciation of good design and environmental design. So our mission statement is about all San Diegans. We're not an industry professional event organization, even though we kind of are industry heavy, you know, in our membership. But if you're not familiar with the foundation, we put on the Orchids and Onions every year. So we had our 44th Orchids and Onions on October, what was it, 8th? And it was our first and ever virtual Orchids and Onions, which is, you know, we typically have like the event of the year, 600 people. It's like where you kind of like get to see people. Anyway, we partnered with NOMA, the National Organization of Minority Architects, and helped foster a chapter to be founded here in San Diego. So there'll be a NOMA SD. And we raised over $7,000 in scholarships for minority architects, architectural students to be administered through NOMA SD. So that was a great partnership in trying to broaden our diversity and also just our reach. It's a great organization. We also partnered with every.org, which is a giving platform. If any of you nonprofits out there need a giving platform where you can just put up your events and start a donation campaign of some sort, contact me and let me know how I can get you in touch with every.org. They were fantastic. They actually helped us produce our whole virtual event, live stream it through their process. So all of our donations, our online voting for the People's Choice Award, everything was organized through their platform. And we were their actual first virtual event. So we were their test pilot. So, you know, we had some hiccups, but it went out pretty good. So Orchids and Onions, we do Open House San Diego, which is part of an international organization called Open House Worldwide. And we're planning a series of kind of fun virtual events for Open House San Diego in March. We're just in the planning process of that. Would it be a bicycle tour of architecture? Or we're gonna do neighborhood hubs? Are we gonna do some panel discussions? We're not sure. We're really kind of staying shy of the big event because, you know, we get about 10,000 visitors visiting 100 sites in a weekend. And it's crazy, and it's really fun, and it's free and open to the public. And so that's something we're trying to do, what we call the pivot. We've got to pivot over to what we're going to do for Open House. We also have PKN, Pechakucha Nights, which is chit chat in Japanese. And it's very fun, and it usually appeals to more of a younger demographic. And we usually have it at some dive bar with some drink coupons, and it's free. And we rely a lot on donations and sponsors. And then we have BEEP, which is the Built Environment Education Program for youth. So ages 5th grade to senior year in high school, where we do programming for teaching them about architecture, design, environmental design, planning, landscape architecture. We do sketching programs and tutorials on sketching, which has been our kind of our highlight. And so that's BEEP's been a big thing. It's been around for a long time, and we used to teach it in the school, but we've been now taking it out to the community in kind of open environment workshops. And Heath has been a big supporter in helping us do programming, both Pechakucha Nights and Open House at the La Jolla Historical Society building there. And we've sketched that building numerous times with the kids. So that's a lot of fun. I'm super excited to hear from Mary about the UCSD extension program, and, you know, congratulations on getting that finally off the ground. We talked many years ago about that being a dream. Remember at we had Idea 2 down at Maker's Quarter, remember? We had a great fun time there, and Mary was one of our featured speakers. So Yeah, hit me up if you need information about resources. Like we have a great guy out of Spain who does something called Archimaps, and he does these virtual tours, which he did the virtual tour of Open House and Orchids and Onions, and he's super reasonable, and it's all online, and you can take the whole tour of all the sites or all of the recipients, and it has content driven. So we're going to use him again. So if you need a virtual guy, I got a virtual guy. Voice and Video did our first virtual presentation, and they're a young startup kind of company here in San Diego, a bunch of young, great, talented guys, and they did all of our production for Orchids and Onions, and they were fantastic. And so if you need resources, hit me up and I'll help you out.
Thank you. Thank you for saying it like that. We're actually going to ask everyone at some point during this call to type into the chat box the resources that you have available that we can add to a spreadsheet of combined resources that we can all reach out to each other for. So like if you have a brick and mortar space that doesn't cost you much to extend to another organization, for example, if you have a big reach and would be willing to do like a mutual blast, a cross-promotional type of blast to one another. If you have, you know, a whole roster of creatives on your team that can support others. If you have, you know, tech folks, accountants, all that stuff. So you can go ahead and start doing that now if you like, but there will be a prompt to do so. And we will be capturing all that information from session 1 and session 2 to be a resource to all of you. Okay, thank you. Diana.
Hello, thank you, Susanna, for the invitation. My name is Diana, so I'm here sort of wearing a few hats, but I was invited also through California Lawyers for the Arts, so I'll talk about that first. So California Lawyers for the Arts, for those of you that aren't familiar, is a statewide legal arts organization, and what we do in our San Diego branch, we offer monthly legal education workshops to small businesses, local nonprofits, and the arts industry, just on a variety of legal topics. So we partner up with different law firms. Locally, now that we're virtually, we've been able to do it sort of in a different format, kind of being able to bring in speakers from other parts of the country or state and have folks attend. So that's one, I think, really important resource we offer. And I know that I think some folks in the room attended. We just had our second annual Intersections, Art and Law at the Border. I'm actually calling in from Tijuana. So I know one of my initiatives as a program manager for the branch here in San Diego is to really activate what it means to create programming that is truly binational. I think that word can be used in a way where sometimes folks are parachuting into Tijuana and having an event and saying that that's binational, but really kind of representing sort of the artistic and kind of like community on this side to say, well, binational is an exchange, you know? So kind of promoting that, but our Intersections symposium, and we hope to do that yearly, and it's really important. It brings together artists, activists, and really speaking to the current political climate of this region and how artists, attorneys, and activists have been responding and involved. So hopefully in 2021, that I think is my hope, that we'll be able to do that in person. We had a really amazing first symposium where we had, you know, folks from other parts. We really want to, in our next iteration, if it's in person, be able to do something on both sides of the border and help facilitate folks coming to this side. So that's one sort of hat that I'm wearing, and one wish is that the symposium can happen in person, and sort of that the legal aspect of what it means to be in the arts or small business sector can be something that is more streamlined into the way that organizations contract with artists. Because through this work, I've been able to understand that artists, we, you know, oftentimes don't have this information of, we can give you back a contract just because I'm an employee. So I think there's a lot of issues with intellectual property and equity that I hope can become more of a common conversation, and just that the administrators in nonprofits can participate more. So that's, I think, one resource that I'll offer, that folks can come and attend and learn more and stuff like that. And then I'm also an artist, and I work for a few different local nonprofits. So I think one hope as an artist, as some folks said, is that there can be this move towards equity, and that the conversations around equity don't only happen when there's a fire that needs to be put out, but that it can be something that is ongoing and really embedded into the culture of all of our spaces, so that it's not only happening when there's a fire, when there's an issue, when there's a problem. So yeah, I'll definitely leave my info for California Lawyers for the Arts in the chat, and glad to meet you all.
Thank you. I'd like to ask, you know, we did mention that this meeting is not for public consumption. This is a closed space, but we are recording it just for our records so that we can take good notes and capture the information, and we will share it with you, the attendees from these meetings for session 1 and session 2, if you're comfortable with that. So if you do not feel comfortable with this being recorded and shared with this group and with the session 1 group, please let me know right now in the chat, and we won't do so. So, okay, we have a, Mary?
Just a very quick question. Diana, we could develop a whole curriculum together, available downtown to facilitate communication, legal, business, and finance skills in the arts. Would love to work with you on that.
Yeah, if you have you know, direct ideas that you want to work with another individual with, please put it in the chat, and you guys can connect that way. That way we can move through it. And I knew that we were going to take up this amount of time at the onset. It's in my agenda. I knew that because first of all, from experience from session 1, but also because we want to know what you want to know and what you want to do in 2021. We want to know that. And so this is an important part of the learning process so that you can get sort of the collective consciousness. What is it that what's on all of our minds? So this is a valuable part of the conversation. And then the second half of this will be more strategic, and we'll talk about specific topics. Okay. So we'll get to that point. Who am I missing? Carly?
Hi, sorry, I'm outside. There's work being done on my home, so I apologize if it's loud. But I'm Carly. I am the founder and artistic director of the Rosenbox Project. We are also a fairly young organization, and I guess what I want to see in 2021, I will say, Mary, everything that you had to say was pretty interesting and intriguing for me. But I think right now, you know, we're really just interested in collaborating within the community, with different art forms, with different organizations. And I think having meetings like this are really really beneficial, and something that I hope, Susanna, continues to happen. Definitely.
Thank you. I keep hearing that over and over again, so I'm really encouraged. Kent.
Hello. Sorry, I've been ducking with kids in the background. So, hi, I'm Kent. I am with Pacific Arts Movement, probably best known for presenting the San Diego Asian Film Festival. Our 21st festival is actually kicking off next Friday. And we'll be running for 9 days. In case anyone's interested, the pivot to virtual has certainly been interesting, but we are still showcasing 125 films from 24 countries, 34 languages, with just over 50 Q&As that are pre-recorded or live with filmmakers throughout the week. So most of it's on demand, and just good timing that it's coming in just a week. Yeah, just looking ahead at next year, you know, I think I want to see a recovery, not just within the arts community, but we know that our work is really tied into a lot of other things related to San Diego. And so even just in hospitality and tourism, where I know there's just been a lot that's been battered, I think many of us know that their success also results in, you know, funding and support that is given towards arts and culture. So for me, sort of this bigger holistic picture of seeing the community as a whole find a road towards recovery so that we can all, you know, rebuild and find new ways from there. So.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I'm a big supporter of, you know, I know that all of us are wearing our individual hats and looking at life through our own dance or film or theater or visual arts lenses. But the truth is that their success is your success across industries. And so I love that you all are all here thinking those thoughts. Jack, I believe you're the last one. And then I have our interns to introduce after that really quickly.
Hello all, this is my second of these calls, and I'm a supporter of the organization and organizational consultant. I just want to share a metaphor. As I've been watching these calls, I had this vision that Susanna has basically invited you all, us all, to a giant park. And there's a couple musicians kind of playing around. There's some dancers. There's a few people at a barbecue grill. And that I feel like I'm in a drone position. I'm kind of looking down to see all these things that can mix. So I think that the vital important function of this is that we're able to sort of step back as if we're on a drone to see all the different parts that can be connected and what those collaborations mean. But it's so easy to get lost in the day-to-day work or to who's next to you, as opposed to seeing the big picture. So I'm excited by this, and I'm excited to see what will emerge.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm gonna ask our two interns very quickly just to turn your cameras on, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Daniela and Abigail are our two PR and marketing interns. They're going to be taking notes for us today. To make their life easier, we ask that any resources that you share verbally or anything that you think that you would like captured, please make sure that you put it in the chat box, and there will be copying and pasting it into a spreadsheet that will be useful to all of you, we hope. I'm going to ask all of you, okay, if it's okay, to also share the contact information of everyone on this call. If you do not want your contact information shared, please message me right now, and we'll make sure not to do that, not to do so. Otherwise, I'm thinking that it's okay. Okay, so first of all, the goal of this gathering was to quote, and this was in your email, to discuss current resources available, your successes and failures, and to brainstorm ways to collaborate and innovate our way to a place of excellence and resiliency through 2021 and beyond. So the fact that you said yes to this meeting with that premise already speaks volumes about who you are as individuals and as leaders. So thank you for being here. I know that your time is so valuable, and everybody is so tired of Zoom meetings. So I know that, so I really value you taking the time and being present at this conversation. So what is this? Why are we here? Vanguard Culture usually has these meetings once a year as we program our 2021 season. We bring people together at the table. We have a nice time. We feed you. But given the current situation that we're in this world right now, and that the election is 2 weeks away, let's just all take a breath right now. Just I'll take a moment to, embrace the things that we have gained through the pandemic and through the stressors of the social injustices and the things that we have lost, right? Let's just take a moment to acknowledge those things. Let it be said that we want to work with you in 2021, and typically that's what this meeting would be about, but today it cannot be about that. Today it's not about, yeah, let's work together, and on March 17th, we'll have this specific event at this time and we'll do this thing. That's not what this conversation needs to be about today. That will happen through follow-up emails and individual meetings with all of you and all of that good stuff. Whatever ideas you have that you want to work with us on, we're here for you. We are actively, openly saying, I want to work with every single one of you in this room right now, okay? But today, let's make this meeting about something bigger than that, which is how, we are only 7 months into this. Think about that. And that means that we have a whole year more before we can really probably feel comfortable, fully comfortable being in open spaces and live events and all of those things, right? So if that's our truth, then that means that we are going to have to do some radical collaboration if we are to survive this. Not pre-COVID time style collaboration, but COVID and beyond style collaboration. So I'd like to sort of set up some ground rules for how we're going to engage with one another today. First of all, this is a safe space, okay? Whatever happens here stays here. We will record it for our notes, for our purposes, to capture the necessary information. If there are some beautiful quotes, we might reach out to you and ask if it's okay to share it on social media, because, the world needs some inspiration right now. The second thing is that, you know, not only does it stay here, but please don't take, you know, someone's vulnerabilities if they've opened and been vulnerable, and then share them. Hey, this person's failing, you know, we're not doing that. This stays here. The second thing is, please try to be present for others. I know that it's very tempting, and all of you have been doing a really good job at that, so thank you. And it's really tempting to check emails and, you know, do all this sort of work, but right now, let's try to be present for one another as if we were in the same physical room together. The third thing I'm going to ask from you is, please do not disrespect another person's career or livelihood. There are no hierarchies here. We're all living our life through our specific industry choices, you know, with dance is life and film is life and theater is life. Yes, all of that. But right now we can't do any of that. You know, they do this, but we do that. None of that. There are no hierarchies here. And all of us feel the same about our industry. So let's respect that. And so if you could, for me right now, just type in the chat box one thing that you would like to get out of this meeting, just as an exercise. And if you, actually before you do that, if you can just agree to the sort of 3 goals that I asked, that this is a safe space, please try to be present, and please do not disrespect another person's industry. Just give me like a thumbs up or a, you know, got this, and let's all agree to that. Thank you. Thanks for indulging me with that. So please go ahead in the chat box, say one thing that you would like to get out of this meeting. And then we're gonna go ahead and get through a series of questions. I'm gonna give you some prompt questions, and you can either speak up, you know, unmute yourself and respond to them. You can put it in the chat box or not respond at all if it doesn't affect you or apply to you, you know, whatever works. Again, if you want your answers to be captured, put them in the chat box, and that'll help our interns capture the content. So let's begin with our big dreams. Everybody just take a moment and think about those big dreams that we all just sort of verbalized. Think about the resources that it would take for that to happen. And so I'm going to ask you, if it does feel unattainable, if any of those elements of your dream feel unattainable at this moment, can you please, in the chat box or respond, start your sentence with, you know, what resources would you need to make that a reality? And start your sentence off with, we need. So if the answer is, we need an open air venue that does not cost us any money, that where we can park cars, or we need people who are tech savvy that can produce a beautiful work of art or a beautiful capture of an event for us, or we need accountants right now, or we need some legal support because this, or maybe you don't have to tell us why, but, you know, tell us what your needs are right now. What would you need to make that dream happen? What sort of resources are you lacking right now that would help you achieve that? So I'll give you a moment. Anybody want to speak on that, or you don't have to, you can. Okay, I'm gonna move. If I don't hear anything, I'll just move on to the next question. So, okay. What assumptions do you have about your industry? And it can be for example, I'm the only organization that's dealing with this right now. Or I'm assuming that we will not be able to open up for another 6 months, or maybe even longer. I'm assuming that, and you can put those in the chat or you can respond. And I'm just putting ideas and questions in your head, not because we have to have a conversation about every single one, or because it even applies to every single one, but I think it's important to determine, you know, identify what our assumptions are about our industry and perhaps break them down. Because even just starting the conversation in the chat, perhaps someone can have sort of a different response to that idea. Okay, this is the moment that I'm going to ask you to share what your resources are. If you have not done so already, please share what resources that you have that are not being utilized right now or taken advantage of to their fullest potential during COVID. So an example would be, you have this beautiful venue that used to be rented for, weddings and bar mitzvahs and all of this, but no one's renting those right now. The venue's just sitting there. It's a resource. And meanwhile, a small visual or performing arts company needs a cool space to produce an event in. But you have that resource right now, and it wouldn't cost you very much to open up the doors for them for a couple of hours, for example. Or you have, an incredible team of tech creatives that are doing great work for you, and they need work. And we can, extend that resource to all of you. So any kind of resources that you want to add to the, spreadsheet of resources that we're going to share with all of you. Nate, please, let's talk about lost revenue. Let's talk about canceled programs. So I'd love to hear from you, what kind of, what programs have you potentially lost forever? Programs that are not coming back. Does that exist for any of you? Even post-COVID? Or do you all have that sort of lingering idea that they will be coming back at some point? They're just on pause right now. Maybe they're no longer relevant. Or maybe because of, the new sort of social justice movement, those would no longer be appropriate, those types of programs. It may not, yes, go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm sure we're in the position of many others where we do a lot of residency and outreach work in schools throughout the county. That vanished, and we're really trying to guess, the trajectory of when that kind of thing will come back, because even what we can do virtually, it will be just the tiniest percentage of what we're used to. It's very similar with our school tuition, just vanished. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to look forward to when things begin to even out.
Are any other organizations doing in-person distanced classes in this group? Not yet. Okay. Does anybody have any other sort of like programs that are gone, revenue that's gone forever, or at least for another year that you, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, I think, and I forgot to mention earlier, I'm Andrew with Arts District Liberty Station, and I help produce a lot of the visual and performing arts community events in that kind of public space. For the last 11 or 12 years, we've been producing a monthly art walk. And that's really been our standard program. And then since that, outside of that, I didn't really work to push public concerts and movie nights. And those things could net, 1,000 to 2,000 people being in that space, either collectively or just kind of walking up into those spaces to passively enjoy. And both because of funding opportunities and the lack of clear guidance on what is safe and permissible, those pretty much have gone right out the window. This year will be gone next year, and possibly further if there's not a clear opportunity and guidance on doing those safely in the future. So that's been a really, from a personal perspective, a really unfortunate thing to see after I've been working so many years to create these community interactions. And then for virtual, for First Friday, one of our signature programs, I think we've done okay pivoting and bringing that to a virtual format. But I think it's still, whether we use Zoom, whether we use other technologies, I don't know if it's quite hitting the mark. And I think depending on how long this goes, that could be a detriment to how the program is served in the near term future and ongoing if people kind of get used to some of these technologies and might get used to them being gone. What would happen, So, I think that guidance on what's a safe policy, and I think like Matt had mentioned the drive-in, which is a great idea, but how do we do this systematically that, when guests come to these programs, I know when I go to another part of the city, if I need to, like, what's the operating procedure when there's different amounts of public space available? Like, are people wearing masks? Are they distanced? And so not having a unified experience, and, when they get to the campus, do they know what they're supposed to do? And what's the added cost of infilling all that infrastructure to support a easy and safe environment? That easily takes up more budget than it costs to produce, or could, than to produce the program that I had originally intended to do. So it's a difficult dance to walk through right now.
Andrew, can you give us a sense? I don't know sort of the logistics of the campus that you are on right now. I'm assuming that you're renting those green spaces when there would be festivals and all of that. Is that correct? And so is it city owned? I'm sorry if I don't know the answer to this already.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, it's so technically the area that I manage is city owned, but it's managed by like a community association. So the same way if you wanted to set up some patio equipment in the middle of your apartment complex, you'd go to the association and make sure that was sanctioned. So that's kind of what it looks like for us.
Yeah, I mean, I bring it up because I think there are a lot of smaller organizations that without a brick and mortar space or with brick and mortar spaces, but that are looking for outdoor spaces like Sam just mentioned. And you happen to have one of those, highly coveted sort of venues that you're not renting out anyway right now, that the revenue's not coming anyway. However, the grander purpose, we're all going to survive financially through collaboration, I believe, that programmatically, everyone's going to do their own thing based off of their mission and their values and everything else. But if you're not sharing resources, it's going to be really, really rough going for another year of this, right? So that's where I'm kind of just, leading you all to start having those conversations of like, look, the money's not coming anyway. We still need to keep, for example, and I'm going to just use you as an example, we're going to still need to keep Liberty Station alive and seen and perceived as a cultural space. And if we don't do something about the perception in the community about us continuing to be a cultural space, that part of it is going to disappear. And so therefore there's a benefit and a beauty to allowing other creative organizations to use your spaces pro bono so that they promote it to their audiences, you promote it to yours, and vice versa. And what you're doing is you're growing audiences, and not necessarily revenue, but you're growing audiences, which is a potential for revenue through other avenues. So it's just a thought. Anybody else have something to say, or can I move to the next question? Okay, let's talk about new revenue and new programming. So a lot of you have pivoted to the virtual space. Has any of that new programming been highly successful? Like, have any of you found something like, whoa, that was unexpected. I didn't think that we would make this much money off of something that we've never done before. Have any of you found success in the tech space? Or in a modified in-person performance or experience?
I can offer one bit of advice. It's not exactly arts and culture. I also sit on the board of Voice of San Diego, and we just went through a virtual version of PolitiFest, which is usually their annual gathering of forums and debates and, all things politics. And I think so far what we're getting from the data back, it was very successful. And I think part of the success was there was a variety of offerings, paid and not paid. So I think it gave people more options, and several people chose to pay for sort of a premium level of experience or a certain kind of insider access, but then there was still access available to the wider audience that was free. So I think sometimes thinking about it as revenue versus no revenue maybe is a little bit limiting. If you think about it as a tiered level of experience virtually, I think sometimes that can make sense.
Thank you, Erin. Marja, you had something?
Yeah, I really do want to encourage all of you to contact me about this every.org organization. What we saw when we did our Orchids and Onions program through them, people started donating on a reoccurring basis anonymously. We have 4 people who donated $100 a month anonymously. And then we had some other people who, even though the ticket was $10, they started giving $100. We got a $5,000 donation out of the blue. It was incredible. So I have the executive director of that. Contact me at Marge. I can put my email in the chat. So comment at margit@sdarchitecture.org, and I'll get you their information. They've got some wonderful arts and cultures. I mean, entertainment, dance, children's programs, depending on what. And then people, what they do is that when they sign in, they can say they're interested in arts, culture, dance, and entertainment. So you're going to get the people who are interested in that, who go and click on it. I get now because I signed up and donated for my own organization. So I get like an email once every couple of weeks and says, hey, from every.org, you're interested in culture and arts. Here's some new programming. Would you like to go? Would you like to? We generated just in like itty bitty donations just the night of, just for the foundation, $4,000. We were not expecting that. So just hit me up on that and I'll get you in touch with the right person.
Thank you. Anyone else have a positive experience as a result of COVID, like something that would have never happened if COVID had not happened? I mean, I can share one thing that we were completely taken aback by is that, we had a whole season planned, right? We had a whole 2020 season. 80% of those things were canceled and we pivoted virtually in some format. But we took a step back on the event programming, the cultural event program, which we're kind of known for. So it definitely did hit me in the ego a little bit, that we weren't doing that. But we took a step back and pivoted to professional development for creatives only. So within 7 months, we programmed 12 events, which was really intense. And all of those were, workshops, marketing workshops, marketing and branding, business workshops, all directed toward creatives. Like, how can creatives make a living during this pandemic? How can we pivot to the digital space? And it was an incredible amount of work. But what we found was that all of a sudden we had audiences and participants that never would have known about us otherwise. So we had our Momentum big sort of creative industry symposium that we held. We had 160 or so registrants, but now it lives on YouTube and it's continuing to gain visibility, which is also great. But we had people that attended from like Auckland, Australia, and Brooklyn, New York, and LA, and Mexico City, and it was just like, where are all these people finding us? So the audiences have grown, which is tremendous, and also it's allowed me to invite people to participate in our conversations that would have never, flown to San Diego, had to pay their hotel, all of that just for a 30-minute talk or something, of their participation. So, we were able to bring in people from like The Moth, if you know The Moth podcast, for example, from New York City. We brought in the director of exhibitions from the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. We brought in people that we would have never known otherwise. So that's sort of a huge benefit that now we see in this virtual space, that we have the ability now to connect with people around the world and bring speakers. And through Facebook, like it or love it, our evolution in our relationship to Facebook, and I think all of us here are of age where we've seen that evolution quite a bit. We are all connected to people around the world. whether there are family members or, you know, creative colleagues or people that we've worked with in the past and now live in another country or whatever. So, you know, I would kind of put your mind in that space to maybe reach out to those individuals that are in a different time zone that can come and participate and create with you here. And I know, Sam, that you've been working with, oh, I forget his name at the moment, the wonderful pianist, actor, gentleman who is in Vienna right now, or some, am I getting that right?
Unmute, Hershey Felder.
Hershey Felder.
He's in Florence.
Yeah, so he's been producing with you all from Florence.
Well, he has a villa in Florence and an entire film crew. And he is doing a online virtual season from Florence of 6 different shows, broadcast live with him after performance over a 12-month period. 6 different pieces of work. That's a very expensive proposition, but if I might follow up on what you said really quickly, we had, years ago, I had this dream of creating this Latinx New Play Festival. Dr. Patrice Amon started it as the artistic director for San Diego Rep. And for the first 3 years, it was live. And we had about 250 people show up. This year, it was online. Suddenly, all the actors in the festival were from all over the country. The directors were from all over the country. The dramaturgs were the main Latinx scholars in the entire country. And suddenly, the reach of this festival just blew up. It didn't necessarily draw more people, but it drew an audience that was national. And who knows what the impact of that's going to be. We did get more donations. A surprise donation, as was mentioned earlier, happened to us. Whether that's because we were online or not, I don't know. But we are now talking about a different festival to do next year with this very much in mind, that we are going to seek out nationally artists that we know that we could never afford to bring to San Diego, but that are going to be in this virtual online festival. And they are all over the country, so.
Yeah, this is what we're hearing a lot. You know, people that are working from folks outside of San Diego in this new digital space. So I'm glad that that's, you know, I'm hoping, just putting that in your minds, that that's definitely a resource. Let's talk about very quickly giving voice to underrepresented voices. So, you know, we've all lived through all of this. You know, I think everything sort of, everyone is triggered by different things and different moments in their life. And, you know, the effects that George Floyd's murder had on me specifically were a little bit surprising, I guess. You know, I have a lot of African-American friends that I love and value very much. But it wasn't even that. It was like, as a mother and a human, and, you know, it was just like so intense for me. So it you know, it hit me like I had to move through that space. And you know, I'm Latina. I'm certainly a person of color. English is my second language. I came to this country and sort of had to maneuver and determine where I was going to live in what space. And there's a lot of spaces that you're kind of forced into sometimes, or you're asked to choose, especially like in high school. You know, you're kind of asked to choose what group you're going to hang out in, and with all of that. But I'm curious about, you know, have your organizations shifted their programming directly as a response? Do you plan to do so? I don't think anyone here has stayed neutral, because that's not what we do here, right? I mean, all of you have made the statement, you've all, you know, expressed your anger and frustration and fears. So the statements are there, but have any of you felt, you know, I can only speak for myself, but, you know, I don't want to focus too much on me, but I'll just say this. You know, I've worked for city government. I've worked for federal government. I have a lot of friends who are cops. My uncle was a deputy sheriff. Like, I you know, I have always felt safety in being around police. And with the current environment of this administration, it's the first time in my life that I have not felt that. And so it's just it's a strange feeling for me to like, you know, stop at a stop sign and be afraid that there's a cop behind me. And literally fear for my life, or fear for my immigration status, or like fear for, I don't know. So I can't even imagine, you know, living life, you know, in the Black experience and having to fear that fear every day. And I know that all of us, most of us, are living in a certain level of privilege that we don't have to experience that. But, you know, I just want it to be said that, you know, I'm hoping that you are all considering this. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. Sorry if I went too off there.
Let me just say, because I have experienced it my whole life, that whole idea of that. So I'm very, very proud of the young people and what they're doing in response to the Black Lives Movement. And just to piggyback on something earlier, and because of the Black Lives Movement, we also have gotten quite a few unannounced donations above $10,000. And I'm very happy to say that, but also with some of the programs that we have coming up that will be directly related to the Black Lives Movement, I think you'll all be proud.
Gaidi, I'd love to talk to you about those things offline and see if we can support you in any way. Anyone else have a...
I'll jump in. Or am I on now? I can't tell. Oop.
Dan and then Keith.
Okay. You know, working in jazz as I have for the last 30 plus years, these issues are always, you know, very, very present. The art form is all about, you know, its origins in the African-American community, and the inputs from all kinds of other communities that have been inspired by that music. And so I think that, you know, this is sort of a career-long commitment for me. But as I look at things now today, I'm looking at them with a little different perspective. You know, there's urgency that it's always been there, but it's more present in some way. I know the next program I have coming up is a live stream of a premiere of a new set of pieces by a young African-American guitarist in LA. He's written these pieces in honor of John Lewis. And I think it's really important to present that kind of work right now and just make the issues present, you know, especially with an audience that maybe isn't as, you know, confronted by those issues on a daily basis as others might be.
Thank you. Keith?
I'm really pleased by all the letters and verbal, you know, people declarations of support and acknowledgement. And I was particularly impressed by one that I received more recently from La Jolla Playhouse. And I don't know if we have other people on the line on the call today from there, but they made numerical commitments in hiring and productions and across the board through all aspects of their organization, top to bottom and left to right, in terms of creatives and actors and production people and designers, and you know, just the numerical commitments that they made, that they put on the table, where people, you know, their reputations are now on the line to uphold those commitments. You know, if they don't follow through on them, I think people are going to hold their feet to their fire on it. And so it may be that lots of organizations I know are moving in this direction and taking actions, and we're doing it behind the scenes and not doing it as publicly. But the type of numerical commitments that they made publicly, I was very impressed by.
Thank you. Anybody else have something to say about that? Brendan.
I'd like to. Yeah,
Brendan and then Heath.
Sorry. Yeah, so I'm primarily a classically trained pianist, and in light of all of this happening, it made everybody in my industry look at ourselves in the mirror, because we're trained from a very young age, basically to play the music of old dead white guys. And, you know, that's kind of crazy to think about that. That's the music I cut my teeth on. But, you know, in recent years, it's become apparent that representation is very important. And I've, through my organization, Project Blank, and even me as a solo performer, I've made and will continue to make an effort to program music by African-American composers. One of them, Julius Eastman, I got to play. It was actually one of my most favorite and memorable performing experiences. This was up in LA, but he was an incredible pianist and composer who actually went to the Curtis Institute of Music, which is the hardest school to get into, certainly in music. But, you know, he died a homeless man, and his manuscripts are now being unearthed from God knows where, but his music is experiencing a great resurgence, and I hope to kind of be a pioneer, I guess, in that way, but I'm happy to hear and work with fellow artists who are committed to the same stance.
I would love to work with you all on that. Heath.
Yeah, I was just going to say the other population we don't want to forget about in this conversation is our Native American neighbors. And, you know, not a lot of people know or appreciate the fact that there are more Native American reservations in San Diego County than in any other county in the entire country. And so it's a huge and important population here. We are taking a different approach with it. We're planning an exhibition in early 2022 called Voices from the Res, Native American Contemporary Artists. So it is way beyond the stereotypical craft that a lot of people associate with Native Americans, into really thoughtful and interesting contemporary artists who are Native Americans in San Diego County and have something to say. So we don't want to forget about those neighbors.
Thanks so much for saying that. Anyone else have a comment about that? Matt.
Just real quick, I mean, I think there's a positive thing that's coming out of a pause that we're experiencing during COVID, that we're able to dive into, you know, these strategies and have time to do this in other times where we were so caught up in doing all of our shows. And I think I've learned a lot in the process. You know, my own white privilege has been exposed, and learning and navigating in that space. And, you know, being, you know, an executive leader, I don't know, I've been so caught up in the trenches, I never thought to speak up, really, just so caught up in the day-to-day. So, I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot to make sure everything is, you know, just being represented to the best that we can. And I think what is nice is kind of an interculturalist to see, you know, the shift from people viewing the DEI work, rather than it being a noun, that seeing that it's a verb, you know, that you don't just, you know, create a statement and you're done, but how is this not an extemporaneous part of what we do, but how is it a lens that we see everything? So it's nice to have this time to sort of see, you know, the culture of these organizations shift as they, you know, incorporate that into everything. So as far as timing with COVID, I think it is certainly one of the positive aspects that have come out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, this is, the forced pause has really gotten a lot of us thinking about a lot of things, you know, not just this social equity topic that we're on, but, you know, our values and the world that we don't want to go back to. If you guys can remember that pre-COVID world, yes, there was a lot of beauty to it, of being able to be in person and being able to hug people and all those things, and live music and live performances, but also remember the traffic that we had to deal with, and remember the stressors of the morning, you know, rush hour routine, and the, you know, never feeling like it's enough and being exhausted at the end of the day and all of that. And I think we're feeling a version of that through the Zoom fatigue. And so there is like that importance of having to create a structure personally, but also organizationally that does not just tap you out constantly. So have you all felt like this new version of how to engage with one another post-COVID could continue, like working in like virtual meetings versus having to go to the office every day, or, you know, that kind of thing, or virtual rehearsals maybe? I don't even know if that would be valuable.
May I jump in?
Sure, Mary.
Heath, I'm on the board of the La Jolla Playhouse. Thank you for that. The whole board endorsed that. So thank you for that feedback. We had a big event, a gala event with hundreds of people this week, raised more money than it has in its history, online, completely remote. But one of our speakers was, help me if I got the name right, I think it was Jeffrey Sellers, who was the producer of Hamilton, and helped us with Fly, the season we had to close the show with. And he made a comment in a panel discussion about how people long to reconnect and to be back together. And he reminded everyone that the roaring 20s followed the Spanish flu. And we're speaking here as though the world is, as we know it, is changed forever. And I think what he was trying to suggest is maybe we'll work remotely a little more, right? Maybe we'll learn remotely a little more. But the desire for human connections through the arts is so fundamental that we may see an actual a surge, right, in people returning to theaters and to concerts and to visual, you know, to arts exhibitions and to festivals. So I just thought it was a very exciting way to look at this moment.
Thank you for saying that. I do, you know, I'm a terrible optimist, like, or hopeless optimist. I literally, my thesis in college was neo-idealism. You know, I'm an idealist. I'm the worst person that you want to have in the room when you want to be sad about everything. But I'm also very pragmatic. And so I think that that's what these types of meetings are for, is that let's be hopeful, but let's practice wise hope. Let's practice intentional hope, meaningful hope, strategic hope, right? Let's talk to each other in such a way where let's dream, but also talk about the physical, tangible ways to make that dream happen. So right now, let's, you know, we just need to get through 21. We know 21 is going to be crazy, right? We know that from now, November to January, it's going to be probably the most difficult months that we will ever live through in our lifetime. We can probably be pretty sure about that. But once that happens, once it's, I don't know what will happen in January. I mean, help us all, right? But but as a creative community, as a whole, you know, we can't sit here individually waving our little flag saying, please come to my show, please do my, you know, come to my event individually. We can't do that or we will fail. We have to do this thing that I've been saying, which is, you know, radical collaboration, collaborating in new ways, not in pre-COVID ways, current new ways to collaborate. Share your venue, share your staff, share your resources, share, you know, cross-promote events, share lists. You know, it's in the past, it has felt taboo, you know, to share lists. I'm not saying, you know, tell us who your donors are or anything like that. But if you're trying to grow your audiences and you have a list, you know, what if everybody in this room shared 2,000 of their most active contacts with another organization in a similar industry, even just performing arts to performing arts, for example, you know, across industries. That would grow all of, we could put all of that together and share them into this group. And we said the same thing to this first session. And think about how you would grow San Diego's your reach to San Diego's supporters of arts and culture. So that's an idea, for example. I want to bring Clement in because he was just able to jump in, and I know you've got so much on your plate right now. So we did ask everybody to just introduce themselves and say one thing that you would like to see happen in 2021 related to your industry, if possible.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Clement So. I'm the Director of Artistic Planning for San Diego Symphony. As Susanna was just saying, I'm running in between things because we actually had a rehearsal and a recording session this morning. We're able to bring back a smaller ensemble from the larger orchestra to film music at the Conrad. La Jolla Music Society is a new venue up in La Jolla. And we'll actually be doing a live broadcast of that next Friday. So as you can imagine, as I'm sure a lot of you have faced, I mean, one big challenge is getting people to come together safely in enclosed spaces. And that's been our big challenge as well, as with all orchestras. So my hope for 2021 is really that we can share more info about how to do things safely in indoor spaces or opportunities for doing things in outdoor spaces as well. I keep joking that space is my first frontier right now. You know, I need a space that is safe to bring people together because you can't make music together without being together. You know, the whole recording through Zoom thing is really just too far from ideal to sustain. So I'm sort of at the place where I need options of spaces. And of course, we're also planning on being able to bring people back into our own venue, Copley Symphony Hall downtown. But we're also looking at this as an opportunity for maybe we can go to other spaces, community spaces, maybe outdoor spaces where we can do pop-up style concerts, say in someone's courtyard, or, you know, Balboa Park is an obvious option as well. You know, this is an opportunity for us to do different things with smaller numbers of people in different locations, focusing on community partnerships and places where we might not normally go because we're so busy just giving concerts with 80 people indoors.
Yeah, thank you. Have any of you, just a show of hands, can you share, have you attempted an in-person production? Anyone here yet, or an in-person experience? No. You have, Matt?
Just planning one for November, the weekend of Thanksgiving and the weekend after is our drive-in.
Okay, right. And Clement, will this be your first in-person production?
Not quite, but it's the first in-person production with a conductor with multiple groups of people for an ensemble of that size. We have done things with performers in person up to 5 people. But okay. Again, those are all pre-recorded, tape recorded, nothing with audiences yet. Oh. I should say we are the pit orchestra for San Diego Opera's production of La Boheme that opens next weekend as well, and that's a drive-in. Mm-hmm. So that's in-person audiences driving in.
So yeah, actually Ed Walensky was supposed to be here at the first session, and I think at the last moment he got called in because of some guidelines requiring everyone to be tested like tomorrow at noon. Like it was like, you know.
That sounds familiar. Sounds familiar. I've known more about testing and appointment guidelines than I ever want to ever know.
Yeah. Do you have any information on logistics of the in-person experience or the in-person rehearsal process that you think might be helpful to the group?
I mean, all the COVID safety things apply backstage and to everyone. As much as we can, we want to create bubbles of people who have been tested. And to that end, we are paying for testing of everyone who has to be together. I know that some labs can offer a quick results. Basically, you pay them a premium and they can get results back to you within 24 hours or so. So we were able to find one of those labs, but I mean, testing really is key.
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah,
and just planning everything out and almost choreographing like entrances, how you enter the building, how you exit the building, when staggering entries of people entering a building, so you don't get a lot of people in line waiting to do their temperature check. Really rigorously measuring out everything 6 feet of distance with a measuring tape, where even putting things like plexiglass shields in front of wind players. I don't have any standard advice, I mean, because everyone has a unique situation, you need to just figure it out, but leave lots and lots and lots of time for planning and choreographing, and it's choreography.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like.
I was told that the opera production, the string instruments could be 6 feet apart.
Yes.
But the requirements of horns and woodwinds and other instruments, the distancing was twice that.
Correct.
And therefore, in the opera production, we're using synthesizers and strings, not horns.
That is correct about the things, because the current science and current practice among most American orchestras is 6 feet for strings, 12 around anything with air blowing. I can tell you that we were still able to fit in quite a large number of strings, so like natural sound has to fill in the missing notes of the harp. So it's less there to bulk out the sound, it's really to fill in your missing pitches. So depending on how it's all mixed in, you might not even realize there is a synthesizer there.
I'm interested
but
in
that was one of the big, we had to spend a lot of time talking about that. Like figuring out what's the maximum number of real people you can fit in there, and then coming up with the option of having a synthesizer as the compromise solution, if you will.
So for those of you that are considering, in-person events soon-ish, I guess part of the experience will have to be the choreography of movement of bodies, not just during production, but the movement to just enter and exit the building, spaces that can be designated for bubbles of people potentially. The concept of bubbles is interesting. I mean, they have found some success in that in sports, as you've seen, where literally they don't have contact with their families and all of that. And some of them do have contact with their families. They bring their family into the bubble, etc. So, there are ways to do it. Dance companies I've seen recently working with dancers who happen to be life partners and they live together, for example, that can work together. So that kind of logistical work is something that has to be done. Does anybody else have anything to say or ask about this, Sam?
We've shot 2 films in the Lyceum. We have tape on the floor. We have a registered nurse there every time anyone's working. We have zones A and B is people who wear masks all the time. Zone A is people who get close to actors and actors who don't wear masks when the filming. There are routes of walking. There's an entry and an exit that are different. I'm the director of the piece JQA that opens tonight, and I never went backstage because that's zone A. And I was in zone B. I was tested once a week. Zone A is tested 3 times a week. So we did indeed get turnaround often in 4 or 5 hours. We did indeed pay for that. Everybody drove to Sorrento Valley and literally behind an industrial building and got their stuff stuck up their nose. Our zone A people, there was about 4 actors and 4 other people. And no one tested positive. We worked together for some of us for a month and the large crew for about 10 days. But definitely there's zones, definitely it's a closed world, and adding audiences to that will make it even more complicated because the access and egress and how do you get in and out, who goes to the restroom when? What path do you walk through the Lyceum lobby to exit or enter the building? All of that will have to be addressed.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Susanna,
Yes.
I want to mention one experience I've had with actually attending a live concert in Orange County. Orange County Health Department has adopted some different rules than what we have here. They have interpreted the state regulations differently. And the way this happened was that they essentially took the rules for restaurants as a template, and a nonprofit, a well-established nonprofit up there, the Irvine Barclay Theater, put together, it was a weekly series of jazz concerts around a lunch service outdoors. Everyone was informed of what the rules would be if you went to a restaurant at all, which is you shouldn't be ill and feeling ill. Additionally to that, people's temperatures were taken at the entrance. Everything was spaced out as it is at restaurants now here in San Diego, but there was actually a ticket that included a live outdoor performance going on.
How many performers?
I'm sorry, how many?
How many performers?
There were 3 at that one. I think they've had up to 5. Okay. And this is not legal to do in San Diego right now, but it strikes me that it might become legal. So I just throw that out there.
Yeah, there's been the restaurant, we also support the culinary community, as many of you know, and the restaurants have been very grateful of the loosening of the rules so that people can dine in parking lots and streets, closing streets, that kind of thing. I think that kind of mentality shift of the removal of the red tape is something that we should be talking to our current and future legislators about. That's the type of advocacy that needs to happen so that performing arts can come back in these public spaces. So if you find those kinds of limitations out there, please share them with us so that we can just kind of capture that those are the needs, or those are the sort of limitations that exist right now that should be loosened. Any other thoughts about this, Charlotte?
I just think we should take a moment here and acknowledge the incredible, profound resiliency of the arts community. Look at all of the hoops we have to jump through. Look at all the extra precautions we have to take in order to deliver our art, and yet we're still doing it. I'm sure that organizations have incurred additional costs. I mean, having a registered nurse on site, that's a new expense. All of the other things we have to do, and yet the commitment and the resiliency to continue to deliver our art is absolutely unstoppable. And I think we should just take a moment to all acknowledge and praise ourselves for all the work that we've been able to do to continue to deliver arts to our communities.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And, as an organization that works to advance the creative industries, we feel a deep commitment to all of you to be here for you and support you however we can. Would you all find a benefit in doing this in some sort of regular format, like quarterly meeting up and touch bases and see where we're at from where we were, 3 months ago, 4 months ago? Do you see a value in this type of work regularly across industries? We certainly do. And, you can just share that in the chat, because we're at like the 5-minute mark. And I think I just want to, make put a couple of thoughts out there. From the first session and the second session, it's what I've gathered. I feel like people need this kind of collaborative space just to exist in one another's world and talk about issues and how we resolve them and bring up new ideas for one another. We've hosted a lot of conversations this year. I mean, we've talked to so many people this year, so many creatives about their industry, about how they've pivoted during the pandemic, about, how they plan to move through their season for 2020, all of those things. There's this a conversation that we had at the very, very beginning It was one of our first things that we ever held, and actually Sam was there during our story circle. We invited, one of our invitees was Roxana Velasquez, who was supposed to be here today. I'm not sure why she couldn't make it. But Roxana Velasquez, she's the executive director of the San Diego Museum of Art. And she said, I just haven't been able to get this quote out of my mind all year. It's the thing that has been driving me all year. She said, "We are being given a masterclass for humankind. Just as this pandemic is revealing the worst in us, it also reveals the best in us, and we should never squander a crisis." And I just thought about how beautiful that idea is that we should never squander a crisis. Here we are all in our individual industries trying to make it work, you know, and even across the same industries, like the Theater Alliance that's happening right now. That's fantastic work. The Theater Alliance is a collaborative of small to large theater companies meeting regularly, meeting like monthly or more, you know, and talking to each other and just sharing their experiences on how they're going to open up, talking about social equity, talking about all of the issues that they're dealing with right now. And I think film should be doing the same thing. Film community should be meeting regularly so that you're not programming on top of each other. Instead, you're cross-promoting each other's festivals, right? Dance companies, same thing, right? You don't want to have a big opening right next to another big opening of someone else in your same industry. You want to talk to each other regularly, schedule out a 2021 season so that you promote theirs, they promote yours, you attend theirs, they attend yours, right? Like that's how we're going to get through 2021, is this kind of mutual support idea. And then if you take it a step further and go across industries and share resources across industries, then you've got an incredible amount of resources at your disposal that you never would have had before. So we just have a couple of minutes left, and I welcome any final thoughts that you all may have, any things that you think we should be working on or anything else. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I just sort of reflects what Charlotte said, that you know, this kind of gathering it's important. I mean, in relative isolation, there's times, even though, you know, I'm creating work, we're doing programming, but sometimes it feels like, you know, like I'm Nero playing the fiddle while Rome is burning. And does art matter to anybody? And, you know, obviously I know the answer to that is yes, but it's not obvious right now. You know, it takes the experience of other people and, you know, what's working, what isn't, to get an overall sense of what's the hunger for what we do. Because it's not just about us, it's about what we can offer. So, just a thought.
One thing I'll say, and somebody mentioned it here very quickly, is that let's remember that even though tourism is not happening right now and all that lost revenue, you know, we've lost all that tourism revenue, right? Remember that the TOT tax is what funds our San Diego's arts and culture institutions. So if we, and this is where we step into our hat of what 2020, we want 2021 to look like. We want to work with all of you. We want to put San Diego on the map nationally and internationally for arts and culture, so that when the world opens back up, they will have something to come back to. And so that's the purpose of all of this. We'll reach out to you individually, and we'll dream and brainstorm and think through ideas. But this collaborative kind of approach is not just about existing, but thriving, so that we are creating excellence. And people are like, I can't wait to go to San Diego. Did you see what they did virtually? Can you imagine what the in-person experience will be like? I can't wait to come back to San Diego, right? Any other thoughts? Okay, friends, well, let's take a deep breath and just acknowledge this beautiful moment. Thank you, all of you, for taking your time with us and hanging in there through the entire conversation. Follow up with me with any other thoughts that you may not have you know, contributed. And again, give us a couple of weeks. We're going to put together a beautiful document for all of you. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We really value you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.